to start off with two brief statements, one from Charles Alchek, who is the Executive Vice President of the MLS, and Mr. Garber, the Commissioner of the MLS. After that, we'll have a brief question period. Please state your name and the media outlet that you work with when I point to you, just because both the Commissioner and Mr. Alchek are not necessarily familiar with all our media crew here. S'il vous plaît, nommez le média pour lequel vous travaillez, évidemment, donnez votre nom en posant votre question. Alors, on va commencer avec une brève allocution de M. Alchek. Merci Alex. Bonjour à tous. À titre d'introduction, je suis Charles Alchek, Executive Vice President de MLS. Dans le cadre de mes fonctions, je supervise notre groupe de performance des clubs en travaillant étroitement avec les équipes afin de soutenir leurs efforts visant à améliorer l'expérience des partisans et à accroître les revenus. Au nom du bureau du commissaire, je suis la personne attitrée pour accompagner le club et je suis heureux d'être de retour à Montréal. J'étais ici en novembre pour rencontrer les candidats à la mairie et je me réjouis de travailler en étroite collaboration avec la mairesse Soraya Martinez-Ferrada et d'autres intervenants clés afin de faire progresser cette initiative. Merci.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you all for joining us here today. I have some brief remarks, and most of the time when I do these things, I'm more casual and go right to questions, but I thought it would be better to outline my opening remarks. Unfortunately, I've got to do that in English more formally, and then, as Alex said, plenty of time to answer any of your questions. But it's great to be back here in Montreal. My visit today had two primary purposes. First, to see firsthand the progress that's being made on the renovation of the Olympic Stadium, and to better understand the vision of the future for that legacy and historic building. And second, I'm going to spend some time with Kevin Blue, who you all know, and I'll spend some time with Jesse as they prepare for the send-off match tomorrow night, and obviously for the 2026 World Cup. And I want to take this moment to wish Kevin and Jesse and everyone involved in Canada Soccer, and certainly the entire team, the very best as they continue on this journey over the next 4 to 5 weeks. As many of you know, when we expanded to Canada in 2007, I stated a goal at that press conference in Toronto to see Canada qualify for the World Cup, which the country did in 2022. And this World Cup this summer represents a defining moment for the sport here in this country. And obviously, there's an enormous amount of excitement throughout our league, up here with our teams, and certainly throughout the entire country to see how the World Cup will give us even more rocket fuel to build the sport on and off the field. Montreal has always played a very important role in that story. For more than 3 decades, CF Montreal has been an important part of the soccer landscape in the city, in Quebec, the province, and throughout the country. And the Saputo's family commitment to the club, to the community, and to the growth of the sport has been absolutely extraordinary. Without Joey Saputo, Major League Soccer is not the league that it is today. The history of the club is well established, but the opportunity now is to build for a new future. Every great city, regardless of what challenges they're dealing with, faces a choice, whether to preserve its legacy or build upon it. The best cities, they do both. And that's the opportunity that the city of Montreal has today. What I saw when I toured the stadium was just incredible. It was an incredible vision for the province, for the park, for the city, and for a soccer market that absolutely loves the game. Montreal deserves a world-class stadium that reflects the ambition of the city and represents its future on a global stage. This is a purpose-driven plan, one that goes beyond sports and speaks to how Montreal sees itself in the decades ahead on the global stage, and I love that. If this vision can be fully realized, Montreal will have one of the great stadiums in the entire world. That might sound ambitious and might sound a little odd for all of you who've been living with the Olympic Stadium since the Olympics. But great cities pursue ambitious projects, and what I saw today was absolutely remarkable. The full renovation of the city, not just the roof, but the entire stadium, is a great moment in the history of the city, in the history of sport in the city, and it will carry the park forward. And while CF Montreal is an important part of this renewed vision, this project is bigger than just soccer. A fully renovated and complete Olympic Stadium has the potential to elevate the city of Montreal as a global destination, even beyond what it is today, for sports, for entertainment, and for major international events, even more than the great events that you do now. I want to finish with a quote that I really love, and I spent last week with one of our owners. His name is Hank Paulson. Hank Paulson was the Treasury Secretary of the United States during the financial crisis. He owns the Portland Timbers. And we talk a lot about the future of Major League Soccer. And one of the things that he said to me as he was thinking about the history of our financial markets, but also the history of our league as we go through this new effort, MLS 3.0, a new roster rules, a new competition format, a new calendar, 4 new stadiums in our 4 largest cities. And he said to me, the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of action. And I think that's what we're looking at here today. How do we work together with the city, with the province, with the park district, and come up with a completed vision so that we can deliver on a future for CF Montreal that would put it into the upper echelons of our league. So I'll finish with one last quote that I love, and it's what's driven me in Major League Soccer for the last 27, almost 28 years. Standing still is not a strategy. MLS has always been focused on innovation, on new ideas, on taking risk, and having courage. And that's what's taken a league that was founded right after the World Cup in '94, now has the World Cup here 32 years later, and help us deliver on our vision to be one of the great soccer or football leagues in the world. So with that, Alex, I'll take some questions.
Oui, juste mentionner Tristan et Chris ont des petits micros pour les questions. Donc on va commencer avec.
And if I need any help, I got Alex and I've got Charles.
Hi, Dan. This is Jean-François from La Presse in Montreal. The full stadium renovations aren't confirmed yet from the government. And you know the situation CF Montreal is in now with the switch to the winter calendar. What kind of message do you want to send to the political landscape here in Quebec to make sure that the club can stay here for the future?
Yeah, well, my understanding is that the stadium reached out to the club and said, be a part of our dream, be a part of our vision, be our primary tenant. We're going to put up a new roof, and I saw it there. And if you haven't been there, I think you've seen renditions. That was one of the coolest stadium visits I've ever had. I've been commissioner through the building of 26 stadiums in North America. Go tour around that thing. It's one of the most remarkable engineering feats that I've ever seen. When they reached out to the club, they said, be part of this. And all we're trying to do is say, complete the project. We know it's not going to happen until 28 or 29. The team is willing to manage that. We've got a beautiful stadium here. We've got what could be a world-class global facility over there. Get it done, and everything will be great.
Maybe how are you and how are MLS committed to keeping the team here in Montreal?
We're committed to keeping every team. You know, you need to have the factors that ensure you have the building blocks and the foundation for success. But right now, our goal is to finalize a deal over there, get the public to finish. I mean, it's like building a house and putting on a roof and not having a fixed foundation or fixed, rooms when you're renovating a house. Makes no sense to me. I understand there were challenges there were safety issues, but what's a new roof on a building that's not proper to be able to capture the opportunity, not just for CF Montreal, as I said in my remarks, for the entire city. You all know what that building is like. I was there, by the way. Most of you don't know this. I was part of the international business at the NFL. I was here in 1990 for a NFL American Bowl game. I've been in that stadium many, many years ago, and I've been in that stadium during the CONCACAF Champions League final with Club America and Montreal. That stadium can be brilliant. So just finish the job.
Hi, gentlemen. My name is Nicolas Landry. I'm with RDS. Mr. Garber, you've been clear in the past about your vision for this league and your preference for a soccer-specific stadium. This isn't going to be the case with the project at the Big O, so why are you willing to make an exception here instead of maybe pushing with the Saputos to modernize this current stadium here?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, when you've been involved in a business, I think it speaks to evolution. When I came into the league, there was one stadium built for $30 million in Columbus. That stadium was replaced with a brand new stadium in Columbus just a couple of years ago. That stadium was $400 to $500 million. We're building stadiums along same time, and in Seattle, we love being in that stadium. We're doing great in Atlanta. We're doing great in Charlotte. I think you've heard the rumors about the Crafts moving downtown. They're not necessarily saying Patriot Gillette Stadium is wrong. The location is wrong. So location is king. That's first and foremost. And second, you have to have a building that can capture the revenue and the fan experience and the environment that is going to be best in class. And we have that with our new stadiums. To do that here will cost more than what is next in line to complete the stadium there. It's a $500 million project. This was an MLS 1.0 stadium. It needs to be an MLS 3.0 stadium. We don't believe that can happen here. There's many uses that the club and the Park District can find for this facility, but that stadium, and I'm not saying this because I want it to happen, I was blown away by the vision and seeing an hour-long presentation as to what that stadium could look like. That's going to be one of the best stadiums in the world with an iconic tower that there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. Coming in from the airport, and as far as your eye can see, you could see the Olympic Stadium. So it will manage or connect with the vision that Joey wants for his team. I don't believe that vision could be captured effectively or efficiently here within the time frame we need to have it happen. So why recreate the wheel? As simple as that. And by the way, I get asked now more, are we building our stadiums too small? I mean, I never could have imagined that. So life changes.
Mr. Garber, Elias Grigades from the Balls Around Montreal. This year, Montreal, from November to roughly the month of April, had consistent snow. And, with you mentioning that the Olympic Stadium won't be necessarily ready for the first season of this winter calendar, how do you expect, or how do you anticipate the club is going to be able to sustain, a presence in Montreal if Saputo Stadium won't be available and Olympic Stadium won't be available?
We're going to have to manage it with more away games. We're going to have to manage it with incurring some expense, which is not necessarily productive. Charles has been working with all of our teams to manage the calendar change. And, I worked at the NFL for 16 years. I've been in the MLS for almost 30. Nobody really complains about games in the cold weather. I've been to CFL games in Edmonton. I still have my NFL, CFL warm-up, heavy down jacket. So all of a sudden we're concerned about something that I think is temporary. I also think it's a handful of games, and I know we'll be able to manage it, but it's not a long-term solution. All of our cold weather clubs are going to manage it, and we need to figure out the best way to solve those issues. We're not going to build dome stadiums in every market. It doesn't make any sense. But we're able to manage the calendar in a way where we can get through it in the short term. I want to remind people, and less for Montreal because we play more away games here in the beginning, this is a 2 or 3 game change in calendar for the vast majority of our clubs. The upside of that, when I'm in Montreal, everybody talks about serious football market, connected to Serie A, connected to the international game. We know more about the sport than most people do, and yet we were not aligned with the international calendar. So we've just got to be proper and have a league that is conforming with the sport that all of you love. And it's going to be a little difficult, but I'm confident we'll get through it. you want to add anything to that for anything you're doing?
Captured it.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Garber. Maxime Truman, dans les coulisses BPM Sport. You're talking about the best solution for Montreal. Do you think the best solution is inside all year long, or is it a mix of outside and inside?
I think the club has been thinking that through, and it could be a mix. Let's get the deal done, and then they could work together with their fans and with their partners and figure that out.
And do you have a problem with artificial turf, or no? Is it okay for you, artificial turf,
In a
natural
perfect world,
grass?
you're playing in grass. What a beautiful stadium we have here. But we live in an imperfect world. So everything that we do in Major League Soccer is a balance. Every decision is got pluses and minuses. And calendar is a good example of that. We made a big, bold decision because we think it's in the best interest of our league to be conforming with the transfer windows and to be authentic. So we have to be bold and we have to be courageous. So artificial surface is an example of that. All that being said, I do believe that the technology is changing. It's changed dramatically around the world. Many cold weather markets in Germany and the Scandinavian countries are playing on artificial surface. So I think we'll manage through that.
Thank you.
Hi, over here. Gabriel Gindi, CBC News. You mentioned earlier standing still isn't an option, and we know that the roof is confirmed, but the inside still is yet to be determined. We don't know if it's guaranteed yet. So my question for you is, what's the worst case scenario you see playing out here?
You know, I'm an optimist. I mean, you're not going to expect me to say there is a scenario other than our goal to try to get the approval and get the inside of the stadium renovated, not just for us, but for the city and for all the other events that can take place there. So let's follow through on what was sort of offered to the club. You know, they didn't offer them to come in, we're going to fix the roof and play in the inside, which doesn't have premium, which doesn't have a best-in-class experience. I don't know why anybody would want that. So my goal is to tell everyone we're excited, try to get those who are going to be responsible for the incremental funding that has been discussed and try to get it over the finish line.
Hi, Mr. Garber. Simon Savant, La Presse Canadienne, which is French-Canadian press. In all honesty, are you concerned about the situation here in Montreal with the calendar flip, with the fact that the deal might not get done here with the stadium? This is the second biggest market in Canada, yet they're still at the bottom of the MLS in salaries. Are you worried about something happening here?
The challenge that this team has is they haven't had the ability to have next generation revenue opportunities in and around their facility that Joey funded privately. He didn't come and ask for, like, you look at what's happening in a lot of buildings in a lot of different sports around North America. There was a minimal amount of public support that came to this team when he built the stadium. And the stadium was built, 2013. So here we are so many years later. They need to capture more revenue. That's what every team does. That's what the Canadians are doing. That's what every club in North America is doing. So this team needs to find a way to do that. I know his passion for the sport. I've seen the success that he's had in Bologna, perhaps less this year than last year. I don't think the issue is to whether the family will fund the team. What they want is to have a best-in-class facility to be able to drive revenue so that they can continue to fund and go, to your point, from being in the bottom to being in the top. That's what the family wants to do. It would be a whole different issue if they said, we're not interested.
Mr. Garber, the situation here is very similar to Vancouver, where they had an older stadium that was a big stadium that they renovated with taxpayers' money, and the Whitecaps have moved into that stadium, which was a pretty modern-looking stadium when they did fix it up. Why is it different in a way? Why would you encourage them to go into this type of stadium that's sort of in the same type of situation where in Vancouver it's not working out?
In my view, it's not even comparable. You know, the stadium that was renovated just recently for the World Cup, but when it was renovated, when we moved in there, that's what this looks like before it goes forward with the renovation of the bowl. What I've seen with the lower bowl and if you haven't seen them, you should, with all the video boards, which I've never seen anything like that in the world, with how they've positioned their premium, with how close most of the fans are going to be to the field. This is a modern, best-in-class, I believe, could be one of the best stadiums in the world. If BC Place was that, and if they were offering to the Vancouver Whitecaps what I think could happen here in terms of being a primary tenant, in terms of being partnered with them, in terms of driving revenue, which we don't have, to the extent that we need them in Vancouver, I would agree that it's analogous. But to me, it's not analogous at all.
Don't forget to name the
Hi, Mr. Commissioner. Olivier Tremblay from CBC Radio-Canada. You, I guess, sort of answered my question right there, but is there any kind of update on the Vancouver situation? I think last news we had was about a month ago about developments in the local community. And are you at all concerned that 2 of the 3 clubs established in Canada are having those kind of stadium/relocation concerns there?
You know, you're always concerned, right? I think when you're running a league, you're concerned about everything, and you've got to manage through market dynamics as they continue to develop. There's nothing really to update on Vancouver. They're working to try to come up with a solution. The solution we've asked for there is a better lease. It's not close to what I think we'll be able to achieve here. That in of itself is concerning to me. We don't have the corporate support in Vancouver and in the province that even this team has on its own, but certainly we believe we'd be able to achieve in a better dynamic in BC Place. There's very little corporate support, and there is no path to a better solution yet. You know, I'm an optimist, as I said in the other questions. I hope to see something come together. If it does, as I've said before, you got an untenable situation you've got to solve. And those are the tough choices you have to make. But I don't compare the two at all. Like I said before, it was a stated goal of our league to support soccer in Canada. And the numbers, I think, are 28 players that played in 22 and coming up in 26 that have come up through MLS academies or come through our system. Is that about 38? I mean, think of that number. And would that number be there if it wasn't for what Major League Soccer has done? I think the answer is no, it wouldn't be. So we've built it. We've done our job. And now we've got to figure out how the Canadian clubs can develop and manage businesses that can be, not the bottom of the table, but be in the middle or top of the table. I wouldn't think that anybody who is Canadian would want to see anything other than that.
Mr. Garber, we've been dealing a lot in hypotheticals today, both in the questions we've asked you and the answers given. Based on your
How
tour
many of these
today-
press conferences have you been to?
Too many. But based on your tour of the Olympic Stadium today and the people you've spoken with, are you able to give, to any degree of certainty, an approximation of how likely this deal is to go through and how likely it is for CF Montreal to kind of move?
I think it's a good question, and I walked away from the meetings optimistic. We have a willing partner. We have Joelle and her team are excited about having CF Montreal be part of the solution that they hope to see happen, because they want a tenant with ambition and not just be another concert venue or be a venue that I think will be very productive when you see what it is that they're trying to do. But they need a primary tenant. Primary tenants drive more commercial revenue, more food and beverage revenue, more long-term deals. I've seen that in every stadium that we've been able to develop. And I felt enthusiasm. I was really, really excited. And I encourage you to go walk on the rim up on the top of that stadium, where you could look out and you can see the entire city, and you could see an engineering marvel that I just, for the life of me, I turned to some guy with a hard hat who's been working as an iron worker and has been working for the stadium for 40 years. I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Because we literally have the best engineers in the world who needed to come up with a solution so the stadium can move forward and not be something about the past, but represent something for the future." And I was excited about that. I love the work that we've done with all of our stadiums. If you've seen what's going on in Miami, that took a long time to get to where we were. It took 10 years. We broke ground and we're going to open up next year in New York City. That project took a long time and a lot of money in places that are impossible to get things to. They were willing. And when you have a willing person, you ought to be able, a partner, you ought to be able to get things done, at least for me.
Hi, Gavino DeFalco from IMFC Radio here in Montreal. I've been covering the MLS and the impact for the last 10 years on the daily basis. I mean, CF Montreal, no MLS next pro team, one of the lowest attendance in the league, Canadian revenues. I mean, Mr. Garber, do you believe CF Montreal is currently meeting MLS standard both on and off the field? And if not, what needs to change?
Well, I think they need to have a more optimistic future and have a building that could support more revenues that can ultimately have them feed those revenues into the club. Joey's probably the longest standing owner of a professional soccer team individually in the world. He's owned a Montreal pro team for over 30 years. What he needs is something that can provide an opportunity so that they can compete against clubs that are signing Leo Messi. And I've spoken to Joey. I spoke to him 2 days ago. He wants to be a leader, wants to be a winner. This is a leading winner city. The city cares about the sport. So listen, I've been doing this a long time. The past is irrelevant to me. What matters is what somebody wants to do with the future. If he didn't have ambition for the future, we'd have a very different conversation. I would have a different conversation with Joey and his family.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Get outside. It's cooler out there than it is in here.